It's not even really a question. Omnichannel is just how the world functions, and most importantly, how consumers function today. So if you're asking why omnichannel, you're not even really thinking about it the right way. The real question is, how and when do I become more omnichannel? What are the first steps for my business? What are the steps that matter most to my customer? And then it just continues to escalate and scale and grow. But the reality is, we're living in a digital and physical world, and the more that you can blend those two together for a seamless experience, the more that your customers are going to be happy. And at the end of the day, that's really all that it's all about.
Yeah, why should people be bothering with omnichannel? It's so obvious because every customer is omnichannel today, and it seems as if it's sort of the more natural thing. I think we should be focused on other things apart from omnichannel. We're already there in that world.
Retailers need to care about omnichannel journey because the customer journey begins at point of sale.
Because that's the future. Omnichannel is the future.
People are returning to the stores, and retailers and the brand manufacturers that are being sold in those stores need to understand that those shoppers are going to come back and they're going to expect things to be different.
The reality is the brick and mortar lines and the offline online, they're all blurred, and our customers are looking for the fastest way to access us, the easiest way to understand what a new offer is or a new product is.
Retailers should be concerned about omnichannel because that's the way that people are shopping.
There's no such thing as just single channel retail anymore. Omnichannel is the new term for retail.
Well, omnichannel is no longer the future of retail. It's no longer an expectation. It's what's necessary to be a retailer today.
Billions of us are already omnichannel. Most humans are omnichannel. We're all using different messaging apps and phone and mixing them up when we talk to our friends. And then when we start to sort of interact with brands, there's just this big disconnect in terms of how that feels, right? We're being forced to do things that don't feel natural to us, given what we're doing in our everyday lives. So omnichannel is already a thing. It's where the brands can keep up with the expectation that we humans and consumers already have. So that's really the challenges we see today.
It's really interesting because I think that the notion of what it means to be omnichannel is often misunderstood. It's not just about the operational efforts to seamlessly serve customers across all purchase channels, but it also extends to the brand registration across all media channels in the marketplace, store experiences, whatever it may be, where the consumer can tune in to your brand.
I heard a great quote from the CEO of Starbucks, Kevin Johnson, and he called this new era post-virus the great human reconnection. And I just love that because to me, retail is always about that intersection of delivering value and human interaction. And so this idea of the great human reconnection really resonated with me.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this Retail Innovation Week event. This event is Omnichannel Journeys. I'm excited to have you all here join us today. And I'm also here with my co-host, Scott Latchett. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Piers, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good. I'm excited to start the show today. Some of the folks in the audience may have been to some of our previous events over the last few months. And if you have been, you may have received a kind of questionnaire from me where I asked what topics we should cover in terms of the events as an organization, both Retail Innovation Week and PSFK. We're always looking to make sure we can inform and advise and cover the right topics. And I gave previous attendees a list of all the different topics that we could cover, and Omnichannel came out top as we return to stores, as we reopen stores, how a blended journey evolves and gets designed is obviously very much front of mind. Scott, how do you define omnichannel?
Great question. Obviously something that we have been thinking about for a number of years. And for the folks in the audience, we're also putting out a companion report to sort of go alongside of this event. Hopefully you've all received that. But just to kind of give you a sense of how we're thinking about it, for us, omnichannel is really a blend, as Piers mentioned, of on and offline shopping. And really we're sort of starting from the assumption now that most consumers are approaching retail with multiple channels across their journey. So maybe they're discovering a product on social media, researching it online, looking on mobile on their way to the store to see if a product they're interested in is in stock, and then ultimately going in the store to speak to a associate, learn more about that product, and perhaps buy it there. So for us, the sort of omni-channel is treating the journey as a holistic kind of experience where all of the channels work together to understand the consumer in context, and then ultimately sort of personalize that experience and kind of drive them through their journey and what they're looking to achieve without any of that friction of the kind of siloed approach to things.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I guess one could argue there's some various different omni-channel journeys. I think today, to simplify and focus, we've elected to make sure that a store is part of that omni-channel journey. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's a great way of kind of illustrating the big shifts that have kind of taken place in terms of what's happening in retail now, as you mentioned at the beginning, with the sort of reopening of things and kind of the return to stores, with kind of digital, the big explosion of digital and sort of e-commerce as a backdrop. The role of the store ultimately needs to kind of change in terms of the way that it serves the consumer in all of these kind of different contexts. And so I think a lot of the conversations we're going to have today are going to look at how the store is kind of reconfiguring itself to both support that digital commerce journey and then, kind of augment what can happen within the store and really, create experiences that people want to shop in store for.
Well, as we go through this journey, folks will see that we have a chat box, and we encourage everybody to kind of add comments. The speakers themselves have been asked to turn up and add comments, and feel free to pose questions or just build on what's being discussed. And the flow of the day, the flow of the session in the next couple of hours is going to be around a future journey. It's going to look at from the moments before as the shopper preps, all the way through to product pickup and what they do with that product afterwards. And we will walk through some of those steps, and we'll talk about some of those key trends. But why don't we just take a look at who's speaking today and who's going to be with us.
Today, we take a step-by-step omnichannel journey of the future. Along the way, we will hear from pioneering executives at brands and retailers, plus founders of startups and technology vendors fueling innovation in the blended shopper journey. So let's take a look at who's speaking. Reeve is a customer experience industry leader and is currently in charge of the design strategy and value proposition of Nuance's intelligent engagement business, which promotes the best practices in AI and machine learning to the world of customer experience. Berger is the Chief Commercial Officer at NewStore. Rick has spent his career working with retailers and fashion brands to harness the power of retail software. As a result, he uniquely understands the important role technology can play in their day-to-day operations. Edith Väli is the Chief of Sales and Marketing at Cleveron, an Estonian tech company providing in and out of store parcel pickup solutions and automated self-service kiosks to retailers all over the world. In her role, Edith oversees Cleveron's global sales and marketing activities as they build a global parcel robot network. Adam Gam is the Chief Marketing Officer and VP at Perfect Corp, the developer of YouCam Makeup, which uses our AI to revolutionize the consumer journey for beauty lovers, brands, and retailers around the globe. Adam is dedicated to transforming how consumers, content creators, and beauty brands interact together. Lee is co-founder of Endear, a CRM platform that empowers retail associates to connect with customers over email and text while tracking how their outreach converts into sales in store and online. Having only launched in March of 2019, Endear now serves many top brands. Natasha Frank is founder and Chief Executive Officer of Eon, bringing our physical world online. Eon is fashion retail's leading product cloud platform and industry's network for connected products. Through digitization, brands unlock new revenue streams, connect directly to customers, and power sustainable and circular business model transformation. Hanif Brown is founder of Fit Match. Fit Match uses RNAi to help shoppers find the perfect fit. Before founding the startup, Hanif spent almost a decade in investment finance specifically focused on the retail industry. John Gregory is the Global Retail Category Development Officer at Spotify, where he leads the retail vertical that supports efforts with key strategic partners in this industry sector. Jason Williams is Vice President of Customer Technology at Dick's Sporting Goods. In this role, he supports software application design and development for e-commerce, marketing, and stores technologies. Today, Susie leads the Way's global sales organization. Susie started her work at Google as the CMO of YouTube in summer of 2006 and continued to run the YouTube sales organization for 5 years, launching the Brand Lab and Google's Brandcast. Albert Vita is a home improvement retail expert and founder of Homebirds, focusing on delivery of home improvement items for first-time home buyers. Albert previously led the in-store experience team for the Home Depot, including Home Depot's Store of the Future initiative and the HD Design Center reimagining the bath and kitchen remodel shopping experience. Katie Hunt is the co-founder and Chief Innovations Officer of Showfields, the most interesting store in the world. She began her career as the third employee at Warby Parker and has worked extensively with startups in branding, product development, marketing, operations, and fundraising. Todd Miller is the Senior Director of Brand Strategy and Experience at Woolworths and is responsible for the articulation and experience of the brand across all consumer touchpoints. Before joining Woolworths, Todd was the Chief Experience Officer of the Archer Group, an independent digital agency. Ron currently leads the retail organization for Intermix. He sits on the board of directors for Goodwill New York and New Jersey, and is an advisory board member and mentor for several retail technology brands. He has led the retail teams for some of America's most prominent brands and wrote the book Retail Pride to share what he learned along the way. Co-host Scott Lodchat is partner and president of research and strategy at PSFK. For longer than he wants to admit, Scott has delivered insights to world-class brands. He studies emerging cultural signals to create frameworks for understanding change and its impacts, allowing him to paint a picture of the future, identify new opportunities, and develop strategies for how to leverage them. Your co-host, Piers Fox, is the founder of retail think tank PSFK and the event series Retail Innovation Week.
And here are the speakers and experts. Great to have you here today. We have speakers from all sorts of organizations, and we have solution providers who are going to take us through case studies of major retailers from around the world. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Before we look at the stages of the omnichannel purchase path, let's turn to the experts to get their take on what they're seeing from a retailer and brand point of view, as well as what they're hearing from consumers.
Hey, Albert, what are the biggest challenges organizations need to overcome on the path towards an omnichannel shopping experience today?
There are really 3 big challenges today, in my opinion, as I see them. And again, this is based on my direct experience as well. The first one is the organizational structure of retailers themselves, right? And so what I always like to do when you start talking about the challenges of omnichannel or digital initiatives, we have a tendency to kind of focus just on that pilot. And I want to challenge you and anyone listening today, let's take a step back. I mean, way, way back, right? And here's an example of what I'm talking about. It's common in large Fortune 500 retailers today. The org structure might have the CEO at the top, and then you have the EVP of stores. You might have an EVP of merchandising and EVP of supply chain, legal. And so you have this organizational structure. In my opinion, that automatically puts omnichannel initiatives at risk. Because what happens is that there's a microscopic difference between that EVP of merch and that EVP of stores. It's this small. But at my last job, where I was 5 layers away from the CEO, that microscopic change becomes huge, right? And my deep belief about omnichannel is that at its pinnacle, the retailer that does well in omnichannel it won't be something that is actively sought over. Omnichannel success is the natural product. It's the natural byproduct when a retail organization is set up to be interconnected. So organizational structure to me is top of mind. The second thing that I think is a challenge is, hey, have we thought about how our associates are incentivized to actually act in the greater good versus the good of that individual silo? So number two would be, are we thinking through the actual incentives for our associates to be omnichannel? And really the third piece is, have our processes, have our operational processes caught up to actually enable being omnichannel? And that's really the third one. And let me give you an example, right? As we're starting to think about omnichannel and being digital, one of the things that we found was that we were running into our procurement guidelines in terms of how quickly we can onboard vendors or which vendors would make sense that we could do business with. So for me, it was running into these operational processes like procurement, right? That were designed, historically to make sure that the organization was protected, but it ultimately became a hindrance.
So, hey, Jason, how does your organization talk about omnichannel? What are the benefits that omnichannel affords?
It's a great question, Piers. As you know, we're the largest US-based sporting goods retailer. We established in 1948. We have upwards of 900 stores if you look across all of our brands. So DSG, our specialty stores with Golf Galaxy, Field & Stream. And then we also have the new concept stores, our flagship stores, which we call House of Sport, that we've just opened up recently. So for us, we really see our stores and our online as one channel, offering, being able to provide that retail experience, whether you want the in-store experience, you want to order online, or you just want to leverage our curbside store services so you can get the immediate fulfillment, immediate delight of getting a product as soon as possible. So our in-store experience is very critical for us for retail. So a lot of times what we do is we focus on building apps and resources within the store that our teammates can leverage that allows them to spend more time with our athletes. And obviously when you're in the store, you get the entire feel. You walk in, you get the experience of sports as a whole there. You have the ability to select and view all the products and assortment that we currently have, which is a very vast assortment. But also it isn't just the only location that you have. So if you can't find the product you're looking for, we have an associate ordering system, essentially an endless aisle concept where you can purchase it in the store and ship it directly to your home. So it really brings the best of both worlds together. So the services that that we really leverage are digital, they're commerce focused. We don't consider those brick and mortar and online. We want that same consistent experience regardless if you're shopping online or you're coming into our stores.
Hey, Todd, as we kind of think about what's necessary from a sort of omni-channel shopping journey, I wonder if you can give us a sense of what some of the core capabilities are that retailers and brands need to be thinking about, and then also within that, some of the big technology investments that companies need to be thinking about as well.
Sure. I think for us, we had, I would say, an older digital program where a lot of our focus was on kind of the one-off solutions and one-off initiatives. And we really took a step back and said we really needed to modernize our core infrastructure so that we had the ability to be much more nimble, much more omni-channel, much more microservices driven, much more API driven, to really give us much more much greater ability to experiment, but also much more kind of nimble rollout of different functionality, different pieces of our ecosystem, whether it's our marketing technology or our core e-commerce technology. It really was about building a more robust, more nimble foundation to really do digital well and to be able to kind of like do omni-channel well from here, but also 10 years from now. So that was probably the biggest investment, is getting a core platform in place to allow for that. Outside of that, it's really about how we can personalize the customer's journey through, customer data platforms and CRMs and a lot of those pieces. So you have really the brains of the operation to be able to message and to deliver offers effectively. How do you tie that into your loyalty programs? How do you tie that into your customer experience, pre-shop, shop, post-shop? So there's a lot of those things that we also we tied into that core infrastructure, but it was really about getting that core infrastructure right, and getting it much more robust was really the first place that we needed to start as we kind of looked at what the demands of digital and omni-channel really needed.
That's a really nice response, because I think, like, as you mentioned, the one-off, even if those experiences are useful in some way, if they're not kind of like connected together into something greater, then it can be a fractured experience, both from a operational point of view and then from a customer experience point of view as well.
Yeah, the friction that you introduce when you don't look that way can be quite humbling when it comes to the research that you do with your customers. The adoption of a service can be severely crippled if you just really can't get those friction points reduced, and you're really running into so much challenge when you can't kind of take that step back and do it holistically. It's a hard thing to do. It's a big investment, but you kind of go slow to go fast.
Katie, if you can go a little bit deeper around that sort of technology side, maybe what Showfields is doing specifically, or what you kind of see as best in class as we think about the sort of core capabilities that are necessary to create an omni-channel shopping experience. And then maybe alongside that, what are some of the sort of key technology components that are companies need to be thinking about?
So we call ourselves the most interesting store in the world, but really we are the most interesting technology platform. We spent a year building out the technology that powers everything we do in the physical, including building our own point of sale. So we actually have created an ecosystem because we own the point of sale that is end to end. We understand entirely what's happening in the ecosystem, from the time someone walks in to what products they touch to what other brands they visit before purchasing, and then what they purchased, how much they purchased, what their email address is. We're able to create this ecosystem where we can actually understand what's working and what's not working. And that's because of the technology. If I think about what it's going to take long-term for people to really have a physical environment that allows them to understand all the channels, including the channels that happen outside of their store, it's going to be about owning end-to-end the ecosystem that they run, and then being able to attribute the things that happen in their ecosystem to the things that happen in the outside world. Clearly, we're working on technologies such as the Magic Wand that allows us to understand the consumer journey when the moment they leave our store. But the first 3 years of building Showfields was actually about getting to understand for the first time entirely the customer's journey from the moment they walk in to what they purchase, and being able to look at all that data and really help young brands understand how to A/B test and get better and get more sales and get in front of more customers in a meaningful way.
Hey, Ron.
Hi, Piers.
Hey, what are the biggest shifts that you're seeing in terms of consumers and how they're approaching the omnichannel shopping journey today?
I love this question because there's definitely been a shift in how the customers navigating the world between channels. So we kind of think of this as being channelless in so many ways, but what I've observed in the last year is that kind of the customer's expectation of what's in store versus what's online. So you could say this is only available on our website, not available in stores. This is only available in stores, not online. Has actually become a really important distinction, that they are more similar than different. So if the customer's doing a lot of homework on the website, enjoying the brand, thinking, wow, and I also know they've got a store, I want to continue this great experience and move it to the store. But then what happens is you go into the store and then the product's not there. Some of your favorite pieces aren't there. The friction has already begun. So it's become less of a seamless experience of trying to merge all the different, the inventory levels. And so this kind of scarcity of product in stores can lead to then kind of failure to build a sale. based on wherever the inventory is sitting. And that's definitely a shift. I think the customer was more patient for unique product in separate channels. And my observations has been that is no longer the case. And so I think that is a shift on how we're operating our business today.
This show wouldn't be what it is without the support of our partners, Nuance and NewStore. Let's get to know more about those companies.
Nuance Retail Solutions provide a conversational omni-channel shopper experience across voice and digital through self-service or live agents. Powered by proven AI and biometric security, they offer consistent, seamless dialogues that leverage prediction and recommendation engines to better personalize the customer journey and meet the elevated expectations of today's consumers. NewStore is a turnkey omnichannel store solution for global DTC brands. The company delivers omnichannel as a service with the first cloud platform combining point of sale, order management, inventory, and clienteling. It's fast, flexible, easy to use, and all from an iPhone.
Okay, so let's get the event moving and let's start that journey. So Scott, what's the first step in our journey today?
Hey, Piers. So the way that we've broken this out is within the context of the first stage what we're calling pre-trip planning. And for us, this is really that moment where a consumer is likely at home or on a mobile device. And this is ultimately kind of connecting them through to that in-store journey. So for us, we see things like consumers checking for inventory availability, looking for directions to the store, trying to understand what is happening within the store from a traffic point of view or services point of view. This is also a moment for retailers to connect with consumers to plan out a shopping appointment. We see a lot of value in that taking shape as well. And then we're really big on this idea that we kind of see around proximity in terms of understanding location and how that connects and sort of bridges the gap between that planning stage and arriving at the store.
Great. Let's see what the experts have to say about this stage.
All right, Seb, I know you have partnered with H&M to integrate virtual assistants. A number of Google products. I'm sure there's things about this that I'm leaving out. So maybe you can kind of talk us through that case study and help us understand the big ways that Nuance is kind of stepping in and sort of helping with those.
More recently, to get onto the Google piece, and this is where it got really exciting. We've integrated the same conversational experience within Google's business messaging offering. And for those of you who don't know maybe what that is, that's Google opening up their maps and search tool sets. So anytime you're in Google Maps and you're searching for a location like an H&M store in this case, you basically, when you get the store card up, it's offering you a messaging option there. And so that can take you to the virtual assistant and or a human store assistant just straight from the location-based search. And so that's really interesting from a the pre-trip planning perspective, right? So the first thing, they have huge market share, Google. So the first thing you're really going to go do is go to Google Maps and find a local store. And so if you do that now in anywhere in the continental US, it'll present you with an H&M store and a messaging option. And that overlay will take you straight to that virtual assistant. And in the last sort of 12 months or sort of 8 or 9 months, it's been around. Obviously, we've been in some interesting times. There's a lot of people asking questions about, can I come to the store? What are the rules during the pandemic for me going there? There's a lot of questions that otherwise wouldn't have been dealt with in the right point in the journey, or you'd have been forcing people to go to your website in a different context and ask differently, right? So it's been tremendously useful, even for the simple questions coming from COVID.
I love the way that you mentioned, there's a couple things in there, but the first is there's an expectation now that a brand needs to be in the places where consumers are, Whereas I think previously it was always like, let's bring the consumers to us sort of thing. And so that idea of like fitting into their existing life, I think is so critical. And then I love the way that you guys are thinking about things from a, sort of organizational point of view, where there's like a closed loop of making sure that knowledge kind of like builds and grows, not only from the technology side, but from the people side as well, which I feel is so critical. Hey, Ron, one of the things we're interested in is this notion of the in-store appointment. And obviously that's been around for a long time within the context of the luxury space. But as we kind of adjust to the new ways of shopping, how do you see that kind of scaling in a more kind of traditional retail setting? And what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love the idea that appointment setting can be also about education and about product reserve. So I was running Apple stores 10 years ago, now more actually, and they really pioneered, outside of department store high-end luxury, Apple pioneered the idea of appointment-based service. So appointments for training, appointments for Genius Bar, appointments for pickups, all of that. And the idea is I actually want to reserve time with someone who's an expert who can teach me something or make sure my product's in stock. And Apple still does all of those things today because it's such an important part of our experience as humans in retail, is that we want to make sure the product that we want is in stock, it's reserved in our name, and that I'm going to work with someone who is going to then show me how to wear it, teach me how to use it, that I have an experience with the product. So I actually think appointment-based service, regardless of price point, is a really beautiful way to engage with someone versus kind of what we do the other 90% of the time is you kind of get what you get when you walk in at that time. And their product might be in stock, it might not. Someone might be available to help you or maybe not. And that kind of time opportunity can be really lacking. And so I think wherever we can do often technology enhanced appointment based that's rooted in training and service is a win today.
Yeah, I love the way you talk about that idea of time, because it is such like a precious commodity. And so much of what we kind of think about is like, okay, let's make this as efficient as possible. But then actually, if you kind of like frame up this moment, then there's so much more that you can kind of offer within that.
You could do work in advance and say, well, how I'll reference my own experience leading Bonobos. That was also appointment based in the more contemporary price point, where we would say we want to make sure that every man that comes in has an experience that's teaching him maybe how to wear something and need something new, how your clothes should fit, all of this. It was very educational, but part of it was also then closing the sale by placing a web order. And not all of it was appointment based, but we really encouraged it because you get the best version of that experience as when you've reserved time.
Hi, Susie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for joining us.
Good, happy to be here.
As you have looked into the data that you have, I'm curious to know if you can share some of the insights that you see around the shopper journeys heading into retail today. And then I guess alongside that, if you see anything in particular that's trending right now.
Yeah. So we are seeing a very positive uptick in navigations, and I'll state a lot of statistics. Understand that the statistics are, we have a global audience of 140 million drivers in cars. So that's Waze's global audience. So that's where largely the stats are coming from. We have about 30 million drivers in North America. So we're seeing, as social distancing guidelines ease and vaccinations increase, that people are returning to stores. Our data shows that really consumers are on the move, with navigation physical stores up almost 30% with respect to what we saw in early lockdown, the lows, which was really last March and April.
Amazing. It's reassuring to see that that people, as vaccinations get more scaled are starting to see a return to normalcy and are sort of adopting those same
We're seeing that, and we're seeing that the trend is increasing, that as cases continues to continue to fall, NAVs to retailers are up. So since March, the growth in NAVs has over-indexed, like apparel is up almost 80%, and navigations to department stores up almost 40%. So everything is trending in the right direction. People are getting back into stores.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, all these things are so fascinating because obviously from a retailer point of view, you can then interpret this data in so many different ways. And, obviously it impacts things like staffing, but then promotions that you're potentially running and, all of these different things to, cater to that consumer who might be changing their behaviors in so many ways.
Hey, Todd. So with mobile serving as a kind of bridge between online and offline shopping, how do you see location? How do you see proximity enhancing the shopper experience?
So that's probably the area that is both really exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking when we kind of look at it today. It's so exciting when we think about, when you have omnichannel, you have the ability to order, you have the ability to, do a lot from different channels. But we look at mobile as really that channel to give you much more context about the user as they're getting ready to shop you. So what's their location? What are they doing? Are they out, running errands, or are they, walking into the store? The ability to kind of bring context into the overall experience is a really exciting part about mobile. And the ways to kind of play off that are really, really important. And the way to personalize the journey gets so exciting with that additional context. The challenge that we run into as well is because we are a business that have so many different walks of life, so many different customer segments that come to us on a regular basis. We also learn pretty quickly that there is a large population of people that turn off location services. There is a large, group of customers that will send their kid in for their order and their kid doesn't have their cell phone with them, or their parents' phone. So what we've learned is that there is an embarrassment of awesome opportunities that are available, but you also have to make sure that you have the way to gracefully kind of go away from location services if someone is not necessarily keeping that top of mind. We try to balance our experiences to both allow for a richer shopping occasion, but also not break the occasion if someone has decided to save some battery life by turning off their location services or their ad, or if it's IDFA and ad tracking. So there's a lot of things like that we're very conscious of, that quite frankly, we took our lumps a couple of years ago when we were going much more aggressive in that space.
I think that's a great lesson for everybody who's watching.
Lee, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how your clients are leveraging your platform to drive some of these, maybe online first conversations into an in-store environment.
I think that the online to offline conversation is really critical, especially as the world opens back up, because what we've seen is that it really goes both directions. Sometimes what you don't know, and this used to really plague our users, is if this customer is coming into the store just to, quote unquote, showroom, as they call it. Let me go in, let me try on some things, let me see what the right size, the right color, the right combo is. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to use that discount code I just got over email and make a purchase. And the big, sort of problem for the associates is they would never get credit for that. And that was the one problem that Endear really wanted to tackle with our analytics side, is making sure that associates were encouraged to have purchases happen in any channel and still get credit for it. But what you were really asking is the opposite, which is if I have online customers, which I believe we call web rooming. So if they're doing the inverse and shopping online and seeing, which colors are available, all of that, I think there are some brands that are really good at making sure customers know that actually you don't even need to wait 3 days for that package to get to you. We have that available within 5 miles at our local store. And that kind of insight is really where Endear comes into the picture, because, for example, we help stores identify who are the customers online that have shopped a ton and actually live within a certain radius of a store that they've never visited. So we can see, okay, well, they've made tons of purchases through e-commerce. They've made 0 purchases through POS. Let's invite them in. Let's make sure they know that that item that they were checking out actually does exist in store. And the beauty of stores, for better or worse, for any e-com only brand, is that stores have, a higher conversion rate. They typically have a higher AOV and they have a lower return rate. So there is incredible value in converting an online only customer into an omni-channel shopper. And I think that's really where a sales team can be truly impactful.
Yeah, I love that insight about the potential for a shopper to be very close to a store and never having set foot inside.
Hey, Adam.
Hi.
Hi. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing in store, and especially around live streaming?
Yeah, so one of the things I think is really important if you're going to be integrating AR and AI solutions is to really kind of have them seamless from a consumer engagement perspective. And what we're seeing is the need to seamlessly connect AR experiences, AI experiences, live stream or video calling, and e-com. And so an example that I can show you, which can be easily deployed from a brand's website or brand.com page, would be an integration of an AR live stream show where a brand ambassador for the brand or an influencer can host a live show on their brand page, which integrates virtual try-on and augmented reality. There's usually a button that's hovering on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and then that allows the user who's watching that show to try on the products in real time, just as the influencer is doing it. The great thing with this as well is that it can then leverage into other technologies, like doing a one-on-one video consultation with a beauty advisor. So in the video example that you're going to be seeing, it basically starts off in this, AR live stream for web environment. And then you'll see that the beauty lover is basically really interested in the product and then really wants to then engage one-on-one with the brand's beauty advisor to get their own personalized recommendation and consultation. So again, what we saw there is what at Perfect Corp we're calling Engagement 360, which is the integration of different mediums of technology. And this direct engagement through live interactive shows hosted on the brand's website, really helps to create a more personalized experience for users, whether it's one-to-many, via the live stream, or one-on-one via a virtual beauty advisor experience.
Okay, time to move on. Let's talk about the next stage in the customer journey. Scott?
Yeah, so for us, we're calling this store arrival and navigation. Obviously, as we mentioned at the beginning, there's that sort of planning stage that takes place, and now the consumer is about to enter the store. Here we see an opportunity, again, a lot of this being driven by context, understanding of who a customer is, and mobile devices to begin to welcome that customer into the store. So opting into an experience to receive things like personalized messaging and promotions. Once you're inside a store, perhaps having displays and other merchandising sort of begin to react to you. And then we like this idea we're calling directed browsing, which is a combination of recommendation based on what a retailer understands about you as a shopper, and then actual navigation or sort of guiding you to finding those items within the context of the store. And again, recognizing that more and more consumers are looking to control more aspects of how they're shopping, both online and then in this context in store, and using their mobile device to do so.
Hey, Todd, maybe you can help us understand kind of how you see the role of mobile playing in the store, on the forecourt. I mean, what are the must-have capabilities a retailer's app or retailer's mobile experience needs to offer?
Sure. So mobile is an interesting channel because I think, again, it's evolved in a lot of ways. And it also depends on whether you're talking about mobile web experiences versus mobile app experiences. So when we think about mobile web, again, it's the ability to deliver an experience quickly in a scaled down fashion that probably is someone that's trying to make a purchase in a hurry or in a purchase when they're out and about. But doesn't want to download a mobile app. So how can you give them as easy as an experience as you can to allow for speed, but we don't really know as much about them because it's not an app on their device. They haven't registered, things like that. So there's kind of like trying to understand the mobile web component versus the mobile app. On the mobile app, we're really, again, looking at speed. We're looking at context. We're looking at ways that we can we're trying to get to the point where we can be much more proactive about how we can utilize and display experiences based off of who you are, where you're at, and what kind of services that you've used in the past. A customer that comes in for fuel is very different than a customer that comes in for food. And, we operate very differently because we have an extremely good food offer, but we also have great fuel as well. So a lot of our conversations and a lot of the things and activities is like, again, how do you, one, understand the customer? How do you understand their context? How do you understand their previous shopping history? And then a lot of it is then how can we scale the mobile experience because it can bring all those pieces together very elegantly to really, again, give them the best fueling experience they can get. Maybe we can also get our customers to come inside and try something new as well too. And then again, vice versa, if you're a customer that is really about the in-store experience, we also have a great fuel option as well. We also have EV chargers. We have a lot of things that we also do that we also want to make sure that you're aware of to make sure that you can really get the full use out of that Wawa run and that Wawa shopping experience. So it's really about using that context, using those mobile phones capabilities to really adapt to the customer's needs based off of those three data points.
That's great. I love that idea of kind of using context to elegantly develop customer experience. Okay, Scott, time to take another step on this omnichannel shopping journey. What's the next stage?
So the next stage that we have identified here is what we're calling service and expertise. For us, this is really that sort of moment where the store associate or the frontline member of staff really plays a key role. I think we're seeing that and recognize how important a human associate is to delivering an amazing customer experience. And a lot of this is also driven by the technology to actually make those connections. So we look at things like on-demand chat, which obviously can happen at any stage of the journey, but specifically thinking about in the context of a shopper in aisle, how they get in touch with either an associate and call them over for a one-to-one interaction, or perhaps even, in a multi-brand environment, connect with a brand expert to have questions answered about particular products that they're interested in. And then as well, we really love this idea of what we're calling cross-channel clienteling. And for us, this is the role of the associate in terms of selling both to a consumer who might be at home through video and chat and using the store as a backdrop and the products that they have available to them, as well as understanding of a customer in a face-to-face context and using that information to drive a more personalized experience. So Ron, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, this idea of balancing technology with more of these kind of human elements in terms of how retailers and brands should kind of approach putting solutions in place for their employees.
So I love the idea of being transparent enough to say, we are going to commit to your growth and development in order to retain and grow our business. And so everyone that works in the frontline teams, again, not about price, really thinks about, is this the right career choice for me? Is this work I want to do? Am I committed to doing that? And that happens when brands say, I would love to provide great growth opportunities, training opportunities, financial incentives, maybe product incentives to be able to retain that top talent. And so that frontline worker, I think about what is their experience every day, what they are in many cases, last year, the first to engage with customers. And that was a very, talk about leading with empathy every day. It was about, are you okay? Do you feel safe? Is there something I can do to make sure that that happens? And the more transparent we can be as leaders to know that we are here, we are curious, we're listening, we're acting, we are providing the best possible opportunities for you to have great compensation models and create great experiences is a winning formula. And so sometimes those tools become technology. So it could be clienteling apps. It could be ways to chat with your customers via text. It could be different kind of follow-up and relationship building tools. But I think sometimes the human engagement is the most motivating one, and the one that says, you know what, I know that Ron's listening. I know asking questions. I know that we're building a culture that is rooted in service and serving the frontline teams as leaders, because they're serving everyone that walks in the door. And that mentality for me is a really important way to think about that front line.
I love how you're sort of thinking about the technology certainly can come in and, augment some of these things, but if you're not approaching it from the right point of view and how it's helping that, then it's probably not going to fall or have the right impact, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with you, because that's where I lean in on curiosity and say, well, what actually do you need? Do you need tools to do your job better? Or is this, you need more time? Do you need more inventory? Like, what do you need to actually do your job better? And it's not always technology. And sometimes it is. So it's that balance of, well, actually, yes, we need contactless pay. Everyone is interested in contactless pay. So let's make sure that happens. Or, we need to be able to be in here during more off-time hours so that we can accomplish web orders when we're not open. Like, that's a real function to say, we're going to do web orders from 9 to 11. Before we open at 11, we serve our customers from 11 to 6. And then, from 6 to 7, we do other orders that came through. Like, we have to really think about those things in organizing our businesses in very tactical ways that support both channels. It's, both channels are equally important today. Inventory is really important.
You start to see people say, hey, I'm lost and I'm wondering which aisle a product might be on. Can you help me find it? Right. So they're clearly somewhere. We don't have the context necessarily to know where they are or yet to answer it. But it's starting to make us think, well, how can we both help, answer those kinds of questions, like figure out, using location, back to the sort of maps example. I know which store you're now in because you were asking for it earlier, but then actually deepen the information, like where is product, for example? How can I get you there?
Nuance Retail Solutions provide a conversational omni-channel shopper experience across voice and digital through self-service or live agents. Powered by proven AI and biometric security, they offer consistent, seamless dialogues that leverage prediction and recommendation engines to better personalize the customer journey and meet the elevated expectations of today's consumers.
Hey, Lee. So I know you guys have partnered with a lot of different brands to sort of provide solutions to them, but today we're going to talk about a recent partnership you have with Rebag to help them drive better customer engagement. Maybe you can just kind of talk about the ways that they're using your platform today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rebag has been around for since 2014. For people who don't know, they are a resale platform. They are, in fact, omnichannel. So they operate 7 physical stores, and they also have a very large e-commerce presence. So we've been working with them since 2019. And when we started, it was very cookie cutter when you think about what is a clienteling platform, what is it supposed to help me do, what does it do for retail. They really wanted it to help them build rapport with the customers they were meeting in store. What's really exciting about working with Rebag is that when COVID hit, obviously that playbook sort of had to go out the window, right? There was no foot traffic. There was no such thing, essentially. And so in speaking to Geronimo, who's their chief client officer, what was so motivating for us as a business was to hear how they adapted to that and really the new ways they found to use Endear. And the two big things that he pointed out was one, really leveraging their e-commerce data to better guide what their sales team was saying and when they were saying it to their audience, and connecting with online customers and providing that same level of high touch support and guidance that those customers would have gotten had they walked into a store. I think the second challenge that I was really impressed by is that, for Rebag, e-commerce is not just about buying. In fact, it's also about selling because they are a resale platform. So there's an element of education that they wanted to instill in all of their methods of communication, whether that was their marketing, their website, content, and even in the messages they were sending through Endear. So watching them repurpose a lot of that content that was more mass into the conversations they were having over email and text with their customers using Endear was really inspiring. It wasn't just, here's something, go buy it. It was, do you know about resale? Do you know that you can also sell your items? Did you know, the power of this on the environment? And so seeing our platform get used for something beyond just sales was really inspiring.
Oh, that's amazing. And, I'm interested to know, just for those that are less familiar with your platform, from a more kind of practical point of view, what is the type of information that is being sort of leveraged within the context of either a sales environment like you just talked about, or in terms of like education, et cetera?
I think the most important part about any clienteling app, including Endear, is that it really needs to have all the rich data that your systems are collecting. So Endear integrates with both the e-commerce platform and your POS platform. And that gives your sales associates, separate from your marketing team, separate from your customer service team, the right insight on your customers to really build that authentic relationship. So using all that data, they can build really dynamic segments. They can reach out to customers in a really high touch way, but also efficiently. So they're not sacrificing personalization, but clienteling really shouldn't be reserved just for your top 10 or top 10% customers. It should really be available to everybody. And so if you have these more scalable tools like Endear, you're actually able to provide that level of service to a much broader audience and still make them feel like they are having a one-on-one conversation with an expert. So that's really where, when it comes down to it, that is the point. It's not customer acquisition. It's actually really about extending lifetime value and growing customer loyalty.
Amazing. Yeah. And obviously in any environment where there's an interaction between an associate and a shopper, then having that ability to deliver that personalization is so important today. I wonder, alongside of the Rebag case study that you just talked about, are there any sort of metrics that you can share in terms of how that kind of drove sales or sort of long-term customer value?
Yeah, absolutely. The head of sales at Endear, Casey, always jokes that, if you're not going to focus on sales, you really should be focusing on replies. And Rebag is actually a great example of both of that, fortunately. So generally speaking, over the last 6 months, they've driven over $20 million in sales just through what's attributed to their efforts on Endear. So their clienteling efforts, email and text. But what's even, sort of more outstanding is that, especially with SMS, their reply rates vary from 10 to 15%. So it isn't just about sales, right? It isn't like, okay, well, can we even attribute that purchase to that text message or that email? We don't know anything about it. Well, what we do know is that customers are really responding to these associates because of the content that they're sharing and really having conversations on an ongoing basis. It's not about a one-time blast like a marketing email often is. It's really about what is the content that I can share that's going to get a customer to engage so that we can have a conversation just like as if we were, face to face.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear about the chat side of things too, because we know that's such a, we're so big on that as a platform for just kind of like having conversations with customers in the same way we're all kind of communicating today. So it makes so much sense. And then having that ability to actually be more targeted or relevant in terms of how you're reaching out to customers makes so much sense. Todd, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the role of the front line within the context of the Wawa experience, and some of the ways you as an organization are helping to sort of support and empower those employees.
Sure. I mean, take out mobile devices, web, whatever you want to do. The really the secret sauce to the organization is and will always be our associates. So for us, there's no greater need than to understand where our associates fit in the overall customer journey. How can they help the journey? What is their journey as well too, to really make sure that we're able to kind of cater to experiences to, one, deliver the maximum impact. Or do they understand their role? Can they champion that role? Can they help guide that role? How can we learn from them and make that overall journey better? Those are kind of crucial things. We know that our initiatives don't go well if our associates aren't a key part of it and aren't championing it every day. So, they are our front line. They are the most critical group to understand, the most critical group to satisfy, because ultimately they're able to take that experience and then deliver it to the customer. And the smiles, the stories, the ways that our associates engage because they are empowered to, because they work with us on this stuff on a regular basis. Again, like that's that differentiator for us. I mean, at the end of the day, we have great fuel, we have great food, we have a great business, but it's the power of that associate journey and those associate touch points that really are that key differentiator for Wawa, and where we spend a bulk of our time just trying to understand and engage on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's so awesome to hear that. I mean, obviously we're talking about the customer journey, but then, sort of flipping that and thinking about that from the role of the associate and how they are actually interacting and how you learn from them as an organization to continually kind of improve there.
Yeah, a lot of companies spend a lot of time focusing on like the front of house activities, those really cool omni-channel shopping experiences. But I'll tell you, it falls short when you're not able to deliver on those things well, or when you don't have the kind of customer service engagement that you really want. And you can take it even so much further by just getting your associates excited and helping them understand why these things matter and why they're important. Our loyalty program has done well over the years, but by getting our associates involved in the customer experience and understanding the goals of the platform, we've seen tremendous increases in our loyalty program just by making sure that we're looking at that journey, looking at how we engage, looking at how we can get the right experience through our associates by involving them in that overall lens of delivery.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the role of chat and sort of conversational interfaces specifically within a shopper in-store context and how that might sort of serve that customer experience.
Yeah, it's a really great question, because I think we're sort of at the beginnings of something here. It feels like, our focus has definitely been historically on those points of contact where, the volume is there. So you sort of start with a contact center and there's a problem to solve, and then you sort of move into sort of pre-purchase, purchase, etc. On the digital channels. But we're certainly already seeing the evidence that consumers are already using these kinds of messaging media in ways that we didn't intend necessarily when we built them. For example, in store. So they're starting to ask questions which would indicate that. The nice thing about natural language, by the way, is even if you're not dealing with it well, you see what people are asking for. You're getting voice of the customer information all the time, right? It's great for learning. So you start to see people say, hey, I'm lost and I'm wondering which aisle a product might be on. Can you help me find it, right? So they're clearly somewhere. We don't have the context necessarily to know where they are or yet to answer it. But it's starting to make us think, well, how can we both help, answer those kinds of questions, like figure out, using location, back to the sort of maps example. I know which store you're now in because you were asking for it earlier, but then actually deepen the information, like where is product, for example? How can I get you there? But also thinking about additional discovery methods within store. So we've, for quite a long time looked at QR codes and other mechanisms as well that could be posed physically within the store to get you to a conversational experience that's in context, right? So we know where that's from. We've got that context now. And then whatever you're asking about, we can sort of start to deal with that in a more contextual way. So I'd say for the shopper's perspective, that's quite exciting, because it's sort of, we're seeing the beginnings of it from the user behavior, and we're starting to sort of figure out how we might use it, mature that in a more mature way within the store. The other piece of in-store, which has been hugely interesting, especially the last 12 months, actually, is not just the shoppers, but the staff. So, the messaging capabilities that we've put in, and actually there's a number of brands that we're working with here in Europe. They had to furlough all of their staff, right? So all of the staff went home. You've got all of these people being paid with great skills. They've got all the product knowledge. They can help people kind of, buy products from you, but they're now not able to do so. So we actually put them to work on messaging and back end. So now all of the customers are sort of forced to use digital channels. You've got your staff now using messaging. But a lot of the brands that have done that are now starting to ask, well, actually, could we use that in some way, right? So actually the staff within the store might not be at the front of house to come and greet you, but they're there and available. So you can actually start to sort of chat within the store environment, and someone could then physically come up to you when it becomes appropriate to do so, right? So there's a lot of ways to sort of think about how this technology could be used in the more physical environment. And I guess from our perspective, we're sort of thinking about that in terms of bridging physical and digital, right? So how do we get the best of both? How do we get the great coordination capabilities, or maybe even, setting appointment setting, for example, right? Those kinds of capabilities digital does so well, but then the physical, which is, there's nothing like having a person there to help you and give you advice, right? So how can we sort of bridge those together? So that's an exciting time, I think, and that crosses industries right now, by the way, I think in retail certainly, but a lot of banks and a lot of other organizations with physical points of presence are trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I love the idea of, that sort of the pull that you kind of mentioned in terms of like the contextual QR code as a great way of not just serving up information, but serving up a conversation, and then thinking about the technology as the sort of bridge to that sort of human interaction, which again can start in a remote context and then be literally like face to face, which is pretty exciting.
Well, right. I mean, instead of putting all of the information into the QR code, we don't have to. We just need the context of where it is, right? This is the discovery or initiation piece, and then the conversational piece can figure out the gap between what the user wants and how they get it. Right? We don't have to have the QR code know all of that. That's not necessary. So we're not sort of just putting a brochure out there in QR form, right? It's much more dynamic. It sort of helps negotiate.
And I would just add, that this is a conversation that's not about price, is that this relationship that you can have with your team and with your client doesn't just happen in the luxury space. This can happen anywhere, should be happening anywhere, because that's how you build that loyalty and acquisition. And Net Promoter is all about likelihood to recommend. So, and that is at every price. And so I love, my office is here in Times Square in New York City. There's a Starbucks across the street that used to be the worst place to try to get a coffee, because all the tourists, everybody was here. And having been in the office now for several months, now I go in and they're like, hey, Ron, it's like, now it's my favorite Starbucks in the middle of Times Square because the traffic's down. So they've built a relationship with me. And, every brand has the opportunity to do that, to build relationships that are inherent of how we're all going to grow our businesses for years to come.
Ron, maybe you can talk a little bit about, again, with everything that we've seen over the past 12 months or so, a lot more people are, sort of going to online, either as its own journey or in support of that sort of shift in store. Yeah. So as we kind of see digital playing a bigger role in that, in how the store functions, maybe you can talk about how you see the role of the store kind of changing in this new omni-channel world we're living in.
Yeah. So I think this kind of final mile of the store piece of the homework that you're doing, you're discovering new brands, you're thinking about what's owned, the store becomes the best expression of your brand. And so the kind of the touch, the feel, the scent, the experience, the people, the store design, all of it is the ultimate expression of your brand. So when I think about this world of how do we make both experiences, both channels, and if you add in kind of a social media experience as kind of a third, but how does it become the kind of the education, less tactical experience on web and the best experience in stores? And that's where I think the most fun begins, because that is about celebrating the store teams and saying, you are here to deliver an experience that is about capturing new customers, customer acquisition, about building loyalty, about educating the customer based on whatever it is you're selling. Maybe it's a styling activity, fitting rooms, building the sale, building relationships, all of that happens in the store. And it's the most human part of retail. And that is the part that I work so hard to recognize and celebrate every day.
So I guess like to kind of go a little bit deeper into that associate piece, I wonder, Rick, if you can kind of talk to us about, we see the frontline associate, again, whether it's the small business owner themselves or the folks that they have working for them, being so critical to creating that amazing customer experience. And, maybe you can talk a little bit about, the ways that either NewStore or just what's necessary to empower those associates to do such a great job in a modern retail context.
We get most excited, candidly, about this area because the store associates are the brand ambassadors. They're literally the most important brand ambassador you have in a retail organization. And when they're engaged in a sales process and they actually have the opportunity to look at NewStore, we get our highest praise from them. And so we always want them to be a part of our discussion, and we always want to engage with them to see how we can do things better. But what they're looking for when we engage and we talk to them is, the first point I think is just speed. So the NewStore app requires significantly less training than other applications because it runs on something that you use in your personal life every day, your iPhone. So as a result of doing that, it makes it really easy for them. And then that makes them be able to execute functions much faster. And when you can do that, adoption goes up. So things simply like checking out a person or inventory receiving or store fulfillment, they can execute these things much quicker and faster with NewStore. And so they want to engage with it because it's easy. And so we have one customer that reduced their inventory receiving by 60%. I think the other key point when talking to the store associates, and this goes into that speed, is just ease of use. So most people we compete with, modern or legacy enterprise technology, it feels old and it feels dated, but with NewStore, it's much easier to adopt. And then the last piece is just productivity. So these store associates have a lot of demands, especially in an omnichannel world, right? There's BOPUS, there's Boris, there's curbside pickup, there's clienteling, there's a lot going on. And so what we do is allow that to happen much faster. So they can do cycle counting much faster. They can pick, pack, and ship from the store much faster than they could before. They can hold something off on inventory so somebody can come in and get it as a curbside pickup. And that's really important to be able to do quickly as well as efficiently because they embrace it. And so when a consumer comes in, there's nothing more frustrating than buying something online, doing a curbside pickup, and then going through a really difficult process for you as a consumer. And we feel like we make that really easy. So, in summary, I think we get high marks from store associates when they evaluate us around speed, around ease of use, and just purely able to make their lives more productive so they can get back to what's really important, which is spending time with the consumer.
Yeah, that last point is great. And I love, again, like so much of what, again, it's not automation, but like assisting the associate in sort of doing their job better to then allow them to sort of have more of that face-to-face value add interaction, which is so great. And then I love that insight around bringing the associate into the process as well, because I think so much of any implementation kind of falls down if the people that are going to be using it aren't comfortable or engaged, as you said. Rick, I know that part of our discussion today, we wanted to talk through a case study to really kind of bring the NewStore platform to life. And you've recently partnered with an apparel company named Marine Layer to implement your platform into their operations. Maybe you can kind of take us through a little bit about how they're using the NewStore platform, and then if you have any metrics that you can share in terms of how that's been successful for them, that would be fantastic.
Sure, happy to. I think first, for those of you who don't know who Marine Layer is, it's a wonderful brand. I mean, to us, they're an amazing partner. They're known in the market for their extremely soft t-shirts. And then I'm actually wearing one of their sweatshirts, and this is my favorite sort of hooded sweatshirt. And then one of their sports golf shirts, which I love. And I think why we're passionate about Marine Layer and why we've had joint success, first is we share a very similar DNA. And most of our customers do. And what I mean by that is we have a passion about having a really good experience for the consumer. And one of the reasons why they wanted to do this is that they struggled with tying this connection between the digital and the physical, and the need to make that feel seamless, and the need to have a really good brand experience. And we believe, like them and like many of our customers, that we want to have the product purchased where they want and the channel they want with as little friction as possible. So together with Marine Layer, we unlocked most of the functions that are inherent within NewStore and that I talked about before. But some examples of that is we unlocked cross-channel inventory flexibility, we unlocked ship from store, endless aisle, and all wrapped around this better in-store experience to become a true omnichannel organization. From the start, as we engaged with their executive team, we knew that omnichannel was such a key part of their future and their business growth. And we aligned around making sure we had a great experience. We aligned around that inventory optimization so they could have full visibility of inventory. And we aligned around making sure that the store associate's job was easier. The other thing that I'm really impressed that I'd love to just say publicly while we're here is that, they had the courage to proceed in a really difficult retail climate. This is sort of an unprecedented environment the retail community just went through. And these guys had the fortitude to sort of step up and invest in omnichannel capabilities in a really dark period. And I think it paid off for them. They're now live across 46 or full US. They have 46 stores in North America that are running on NewStore. And to answer your question about some of the metrics, when you put an application like this, there's tons of metrics and value that you get. And one of the things that we do is we measure and track that, continue to show the retailer the value they're getting. And through that journey, some of the things that we have seen through the last quarter is the first is 5% of all of their sales each week are endless aisle sales. And that's amazing, right? Because that helps drive a higher average order value with the ability to buy products from an inventory location across anywhere real time. It's really true omnichannel. We had 15% of their web orders were shipped from store. And to me, this has significant impact across so many dimensions of their business. But you can help decrease your shipping costs because no longer are you shipping from a centralized DC, you're shipping from retail locations that are closest to the consumer. So you can get that inventory to them faster at a lower cost. And that has so many benefits around markdown management or inventory management. So if you're in a market where a sweatshirt like I have today, it might be not necessary in a warmer climate market and that inventory is sitting there, they can ship that excess inventory from that store to the consumer in a market where maybe they're selling out of it too quickly. So that gives them ultimate flexibility. And then the other key thing is you get to know your customers better because of the simplicity of the application. They had 84% email capture rate. So that helps because they understand who's purchasing from them, and it helps in the future with things like clienteling.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And I love that insight again about the flexibility of inventory and how big a deal that is operationally in the scenario that you presented. And then again, like thinking about that just from a customer experience, showing up at the store and, waiting to receive an item. There's so much that can kind of fall down in these like last mile or last foot kind of interactions.
NewStore is a turnkey omnichannel store solution for global DTC brands. The company delivers omnichannel as a service with the first cloud platform combining point of sale, order management, inventory, and clienteling. It's fast, flexible, easy to use, and all from an iPhone.
So Jason, we obviously know that the frontline associate is such a key piece of that, customer experience, both online and of course in store. How are you guys approaching that from sort of like supporting and empowering those associates in terms of, within your organization?
So we obviously see our teammates as passionate and skilled. They're the foundation of our organization. So we have unwavering dedication to make their lives easier with the use of technology in providing the ability to service our athletes and our communities. So we're highly focused on building that diverse and inclusive culture, celebrating and honor each individual, as we create this environment for everyone to succeed. So a lot of that begins with how we create the technology itself. So my teams I lead business product engineering for our e-commerce stores and marketing portfolios. We always practice lean product management practices where you get fast feedback loops, you're constantly iterating. You start with identifying an MVP that you want to build, and then through tracking KPIs, success parameters, you can continue to grow that capability as we move forward. But first approach is we take a very human-centered design approach, either with working with the athlete or the teammate, determining who's a user of the application, understanding what their needs are, doing some discovery and framing, where are the areas that we need to focus on, how should this capability work for that end user, and then figuring out ways that we can start to build value quickly. Maybe the first initial MVP is one facet of that capability, and there's maybe 3 or 4 phases to that, but getting something in front of that consumer's hands so they can start providing feedback. Directionally, is this the right way to build this? Is this meeting your needs? Have we identified what that opportunity and gap is, and are we starting to remediate any issues that you have? So it puts the focus on the consumer. We always talk about being obsessed over the athlete. And our teammates in the stores have that same mentality. And if we can provide technology to make their lives easier, they're going to spend more time obsessing over the athlete.
Hi, thanks so much for joining us for Retail Innovation Week's Omnichannel Journeys event. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about PSFK, Retail Innovation Week's sister company. PSFK has been around since 2004, and we aim to lead the conversation around retail and consumer experience innovation. So at every single step within the consumer journey, whether that's in-store, online, at point of sale, or at any point thereafter, we aim to tell trends-based stories that showcase innovation at every single step within that journey. The ways in which we deliver that are through PSFK IQ. PSFK IQ is a syndicated trends research platform available via a 12-month license. It has all different types of content, but perhaps most importantly, it has a library of over 400 reports that users are able to download, or we call them members. They're searchable by industry, by demographic, by technology, by stage within the consumer journey. And you also have the ability to ask us on-demand research questions, and we turn around research reports within roughly 7 days. We, of course, host events. Again, thank you for joining us for this most recent one with Retail Innovation Week. And we offer consulting services. Our consulting services take all different forms, but ultimately, we are helping with retail experience design and innovation. So whether that be a digital consumer experience, whether that be physical retail, or anything in between, we work with Fortune 1000 brands to help to solve those difficult problems and to help teams with front-end innovation and also to see over the horizon. The final thing that we offer is the PSFK Weekly Debrief. The Weekly Debrief is a newsletter product. It basically delivers insights directly into your inbox on Monday mornings of each week. And with your debrief subscription, you also get a copy of the Future of Retail 2021 report as a bonus, and you get one report of your choice out of our library as part of the offering. So should you have any questions about any of this, feel free to send me a note. It's jeff@psfk.com, jeff@psfk.com, and we'll probably just drop right there into the chat my email as well. Thanks so much again for joining us for the event.
Okay, Scott, we're so far through the shopper journey, but there's still a couple more stages. Can you take us through the next step in that omnichannel shopping journey?
Sure. For us, that sort of next stage we're calling merchandising and product trial. This is kind of where the rubber hits the road in terms of that experience, and what really kind of sets the physical store experience apart from what can be offered online. Obviously, there's a lot of attempts to kind of create confidence and help people test and try in a digital context, but in the store where you actually have the ability to see, touch, try, test products, there's a lot that can begin to happen there. And so we have a trend that we're calling augmented fit. And fit for us is both fit in the sense of this shirt fits me, hopefully everyone agrees. And then also thinking about how you help people choose the right product for them based on different SKUs, styles, features, all of those things. And then again, from a sort of mobile device point of view or a responsive kind of technology point of view, how people are scanning to get additional information about a product, perhaps using sort of experiential kind of kiosks to learn and interact, or maybe interactive video is supporting some of the products that they're looking at and things of that nature. So really exciting opportunity to kind of personalize the store around each shopper here.
And so as we talk about this section today, I wanted to call upon John Gregory of Spotify. Hey, John.
Hi, Piers. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's great to have you here. So, John, what are some of the emerging and mainstream behaviors that you're tracking in terms of how consumers are using mobile, especially in the physical world?
Well, it's really interesting. With regard to the physical world of retail, you have to remember that there was a day when store events and special in-store programs were really a key part of seasonal marketing strategies. And it was a routine means of bolstering the customer experience and bringing awareness and new products and to really generate excitement in the store to draw traffic. Shopping was and still is a very social form of entertainment, and retailers did their best at that point in time to make the store experience come to life in the best way possible. But you have to fast forward to the post 2000s when low price became the name of the game, and as a result, it forced many legacy retailers to toss aside all those things that had made them special over the years, including in-store activations, to save expense dollars and to remain competitive in a very, very crowded marketplace. And that's just the reality of today. And those of us who have been around for a while have to move with the times and just realize retail has changed. But it's interesting that in recent years, even before COVID reared its ugly head, retailers and new entrants into the sector were beginning to reevaluate their marketing strategy to explore relevant and more cost-efficient means of building their brand awareness through a more personalized in-store shopping engagement. And bringing such engagements through the emotion and cultural connection of music plays a really critical role in this effort. And so with the notion of building a differentiated approach to brand registration in the marketplace, we often ask the questions of our retail clients, are you a brand or are you a barcode? Meaning there's more to the retail experience than simply relying on low cost and quick transactions to gain customer awareness and loyalty. You need that something special, that extra something special. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. And keeping in mind that loyalty comes in many forms and not necessarily needs to be points, coupons, cashbacks or discounts. With mobile devices as the gateway, loyalty can be driven through and appropriate experiences that make the visit to a store a very memorable one. And not only can Spotify bring these in-store experiences to life, but because they live on the Spotify platform, you can take them with you for future enjoyment, whether it be at your leisure at home on your laptop or mobile device, or whether you have your earbuds in and you're going to visit the store in the future. So it's a very interesting evolution of how mobile devices can be used to fuel an in-store experience.
Yeah, I really love that idea of how you are talking about the sort of like theater of the past and how that's sort of like transferring forward in the context of, perhaps these mobile experiences that you can begin to build and offer for customers. Maybe you can take us through some of the ways that Spotify is actually working with brands and retailers to bring this to life.
Absolutely. And there are a few examples, very recent examples, I think are very worth talking about. And one is a program we ran for the Oxford Street reopening in London. After emerging from another round of close downs, the management firm that runs the promotions for Oxford Street, the New West End Company, wanted to build awareness and excitement around the reopening of the stores in the London's iconic Oxford Street shopping district. So the idea was to bring awareness of the reopenings, to bring a fresh outlook and drive people back to the streets, more or less. So to celebrate the reopening, the management company partnered with Spotify to curate a series of playlists to, quote unquote, soundtrack your visit to the nation's high street. And targeting was directed at style watchers, men and women apparel buyers, and branded playlists exclusively on Spotify were created to reflect 4 different shopping moods that they wanted to create around this experience. And they were activated through codes that appeared on signage along Oxford Street, kind of a musical map when you think about it in that way. So listeners then also, after accessing these playlists, were able to share them socially on their own social media channels, to share the fun partnership with their friends and others who were very interested in the shopping experience as well. And 4 different playlists were created: the Londoner Power Hour, London Fresh Sounds and Talent from the London area, Oxford Street Throwbacks, kind of a nod to nostalgia, and Oxford Street Unplugged, much more of a, uplifting, kind of a wild side of the Oxford Street reopening.
It's amazing because I love, it's music in the context of a store is something that's like, I think to the holidays immediately, and the ways that stores kind of curate that environment. And this is kind of like bringing that down to an individual level and letting people really kind of like choose their way in.
Adam, have you been seeing any examples when it comes to QR code in the store and how shoppers are interacting with it?
Yeah, you might see a lot happening as well is, before, like I said, we were heavily using kiosks in the store, but I think everybody's going to be walking around with their mobile devices, which they've been doing already anyway. So the idea of using a QR code at the point of purchase or on the product or built into a display also opens up the entire world, because, again, they could be using that QR code and then virtually trying on their phone or talking to a beauty advisor on their phone. So I think that those technologies, which aren't new, are going to really just see, like a heyday. Now the stores are reopening, and people might not want to interact with, kiosks in store.
Katie, I know this is something that you guys have been sort of thinking about with Showfields from day one, but as we look at more purchases happening online and people starting to plan out more aspects of their sort of in-store journeys, how do you see the role of the store changing? And what do retailers need to be thinking about differently in terms of making it sort of a key piece of that omni-channel experience?
What happened during COVID is that more people are shopping e-com than ever before, and more people are experiencing the convenience of it. It is so easy. If you're shopping on your phone and double clicking to Apple Pay, if the product is arriving the next day, if you have ease of search, those are things that people are now bringing into the physical location. They are wanting those same things in their physical spaces as they have in their digital spaces. So the future and role of the store is what we call consumer commerce, or C-commerce. It is rethinking the entire retail experience through the eyes of the consumer and giving them all of the things that they expect through an online purchase in a physical location. A great example of this is the Magic Wand app also has a place where you can see what products are in front of you, right? If you'd like to be in the app itself. And what we find is that instead of talking sometimes to one of our storytellers, a lot of people who are really comfortable with digital shopping will stand in the space and search through and look and compare all the products directly on their phone before then picking up and purchasing the product. It's ease of use for them for education. So I really think the future of retail is, it's not just this idea of curbside pickup and all these other flashy words that everyone's speaking about. It's getting to the heart of what actually a consumer wants, which is for it to be as easy to navigate and more fun than digital.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that bringing in. I mean, even though in some cases, as you mentioned, the consumer is more comfortable interacting on a mobile device than speaking to someone in person, and probably even more so now that we're all living in this like screen-based world so much. But it's pretty incredible to then figure out how to be customer-centric and it's such a challenge to meet all the needs and be so flexible for all the different ways people want to shop today. So Adam, thanks for joining us. Maybe you can just kind of take a moment and look at some of the context around some of the biggest challenges you're hearing from the partners that you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, COVID has, definitely changed the world of beauty, but even before the pandemic, there was an increase in online shopping. And the pandemic really helped to accelerate that trend. So as far as challenges, one of the biggest challenges that people are saying is that they have now a demand for innovative digital solutions and a need to quickly shift to a direct-to-consumer strategy. And that's a direct-to-consumer strategy, that can replicate in-person shopping experiences, and maybe even, make it better than it was in person, which VTO, virtual try-on, and using artificial intelligence and augmented reality sometimes could be even better than what you could have typically done prior to these technologies being out, because it's letting you try unlimited amounts of inventory from a sampling perspective. It's getting rid of the hygiene issues that you might have seen from a tester. So even before COVID, there was issues with testers, but this obviously gets rid of those concerns. It gets rid of time consuming issues. So if you think about this, you could try on 30 shades of lipstick in 30 seconds. Think about an in-store experience where how would you try on multiple colors? You probably weren't going to remove the product off your face and put it back on. And if you were swatching, that also brings up a lot of mess issues, besides the time-consuming one. The other thing that I'm also seeing in regards to challenges is this need for personalization. So again, this is something that was on everybody's, agenda prior to COVID, but even more now, it's how do you use the technologies to get that much more personalized recommendations and personalized, solutions in the marketplace.
Awesome. That's amazing context. Maybe you can just talk about some of the ways your platform kind of like addresses some of these challenges in a digital context.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing I want to say is, the use of augmented reality and artificial intelligence isn't just something that's out there for a novelty. It really is solving both a consumer pain point as well as a brand and retailer pain point. And it is helping to move the needle forward. So what we've seen from the use of virtual try-on technology is some of our beauty brand partners, and we have over 320 global brands that we work with, have seen higher conversion rates with the use of virtual try-on, up to 2.5 times higher conversion rates. They've seen the integration of these technologies allowing people to have a longer dwell time or more time on site, so they're engaging more with the brand in these online environments. We've seen a 300% boost in digital engagement. And that actually came from a stat from Meredith Media. They integrated these technologies into an ad unit, and they saw that there was a higher engagement when there was the use of beauty technology involved than when there wasn't. And obviously everything has to do with increasing sales and add to cart. And we've seen, double-digit increases to add to cart and increases in sales. So it really helps to enrich the consumer experience, and it really does help to give those personalized, moments that a consumer wants. So from a virtual try-on perspective, UCAM's makeup, has created a simplified, fun, and sticky experience for people to discover and experiment with, whether it's in the retail environment, online or in store. It's really true to life. So I think that is super important in creating high touch experience. If it was just there for a novelty and it wasn't really providing the accuracy that's going to allow for a more confident purchase decision, these technologies wouldn't suffice. And really right now, the technology is allowing it just not for color cosmetics, but it really works for any, of the beauty categories out there, whether it's skincare or hair.
One of the progressive and super interesting solution providers at this stage of the customer journey is FitMatch. And we're lucky today to have Hanif Brown join us to talk about his work. Hey, Hanif.
Hey, Piers. Nice to be on.
It's great to have you. So I wonder whether you can walk us through the process of FitMatch from a shopper point of view. How does that experience come to life in-home, on-premise? What happens after a customer has established a fit profile?
It's a great question. So we have an omni-channel approach. We are a middleware software that we can integrate into fitting rooms, we can integrate into apps, we can integrate into websites, and provide the customer with a seamless experience of providing either a 3D measurement of themselves, a gyroscopic measurement of themselves, or really give the ability to give the brand data on their body shape, their body measurements, into a portal. After the customer does that, FitMatch sends the customer a unique identification, allowing them to log in to a personalized experience from our different brand partners. If it's in a fitting room, the experience would look like that retailer's experience. If it's in an app experience, the person might get a multi-branded experience to shop from.
Take us through, who have you been working with recently? Can you take us through a case study?
Absolutely. So we've been doing this now for some pretty big brands and retailers. And most recently, we've demonstrated this with Macy's. So I want to take you through a really relevant example that really came out of COVID. So Macy's, as one of the many apparel retailers, closed their fitting rooms most recently to deal with the different rules and regulations around the pandemic. But what happened was they saw this particular store, relevant to this case study, they saw a dip in their customer reviews as customers wanted to buy a prom dress, as they wanted to buy certain garments, they couldn't try it on. And so customers were being and becoming more frustrated with the experience. So we formed a bond at the local level with the sales team at Macy's, and we went in there and integrated our technology into one of their fitting rooms. So this is what it looked like beforehand, where customers would see this sign and have a bunch of garments in their hand and not know what to do. But essentially, as COVID started to happen, we started to see this emergence of real estate developers and retailers asking us to replicate the online experience in the four walls. So we did a partnership with Brookfield. You could see different establishments like the Washington Post coding that this is a new movement. And so we knew that we could do this for someone as large as Macy's. So we went in, we did all the product integration on the back end, so the retailer doesn't have to worry about that. We do all the synchronizations, all the matching of the product. And then we set up an experience in one of the closed fitting rooms. Customers would walk in and see that same sign and have that similar frustration. And then the Macy's store associate or one of our staff members would educate the customer on what it means to get pitched, what it means to give over this data, and in return, help them really shop from a more personalized experience. So shoppers would come in, they would do the fitting process, which just enables them to stand, with their feet apart. It takes about 10 seconds. And then immediately we would start recommending what they should buy. As you can see on the right side of the screen, setting up one of these for Macy's took about 10 to 15 minutes tops. This is very mobile. It's something that can be done very quickly. And then essentially the customer gets a wealth of information, really avoiding the process of trying on clothes in the future. What we saw in terms of the results were just truly fascinating. In terms of the experience, the shoppers, as I mentioned, they get a portal to see their avatars, to see their measurements, but also to shop right on the spot and to find their matches. And we actually show them in 3D what some of the looks, how it would sort of fit their bodies. And so we give them a list of the different products, and we show them the match scores for each of those products. So if you're a customer, the interesting thing about the Fit Match experience is that we're flipping the apparel shopping journey. We're showing people what fits first and then allowing them to pick their favorite style. So imagine that you have 100 products. Fit Match is showing you the top 25 that fit you the best, and then asking you to pick your favorite styles from that truncated list. So it's really a personalized experience where Jessica's shopping experience looks nothing like Amy's shopping experience. It's almost like the Netflix of shopping, where you get this sort of personalized view into each brand that we have.
Yeah, that's really incredible in terms of thinking about that from sort of all the various sort of angles and perspectives. Hanif, you've sort of hinted at this a little bit, but I wonder if you can talk a little bit more. Obviously, there's something quite powerful about having a customer profile in terms of delivering on that sort of like personalized experience. But then I can imagine there's probably a lot of different ways that understanding fit or, this sort of rich data about an individual has other potentials to be sort of leveraged. Can you kind of talk a bit about that moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, when we talk to retailers and brands, we're not only talking to the product team, we're not only talking to the digital team, we're talking to the retail team, the marketing team, right? And so this has it's a multifaceted solution that we're offering, and the best retailers understand that, right? So it's all about how can we use this across the organization? How can we use this to market to shoppers better? How can we use this to actually make better product? So it's not only about solving that pain point for that individual shopper, but you would rather just solve it season after season. You rather make better educated decisions on what to buy, what to purchase, how many sizes of what you really need, and increasingly the changing demographic and body shape makeup of the underlying customer base. So again, this is a data company. This is a data problem to solve. We believe that there's no other aspect of retail that can be solved with big data other than fit. Well, it really is a data problem. And so the brands that attack this in the most powerful ways can solve product and inventory issues. They can solve marketing issues, obviously merchandising, and most importantly, we believe the customer experience. And if a customer can get that perfect garment in 10% of the time, other than scrolling through many filters on a site or going into a fitting room and trying on something for 25 minutes, that customer is more loyal to that brand. They have a better experience, and that brand is delivering on that promise.
Yeah, it's really, I like the way that you're kind of like thinking about that. And again, I mean, there's so many, it's having that information creates so many opportunities from a business point of view. Natasha, I'm interested if you can kind of talk a little bit about, you mentioned this notion of product as media channel in some ways, and the types of experiences that can be offered as a consumer is perhaps presented with a product for the first time.
Once digitized, each connected product can become a media channel and a two-way communication channel between brand and customer. So you're holding this sweater, you can scan it, you can access styling resources, right? You can actually access an outfit recommendation of pants or shoes that would look good with this product, as well as see different ways that people have styled it. You can access transparency information, understand the origins of your product, the ethics of the supply chain. You can access resale resources, you can access care instructions, you can access recycling information. And basically what it starts to do is build this two-way communication channel between brands and customers. And it enables brands to move more into a service-based relationship with each customer. Right, today the relationship, I guess, between the brand and the customer is very transactional. It's about that point of initial sale, and then the relationship is essentially over. Now with the connected product, that brand can continue to engage, service, and build community with that customer.
So Scott, onto the final stage of our omnichannel shopper journey. Where did we get to?
So for us, this is really that kind of final stage where we are calling this the pick up and play portion of the shopper journey. And what that means for us is within that sort of pickup piece, we recognize that now the store plays so many more roles in terms of how a customer chooses to shop that experience. And so here we have everything from that buy online and pick up in store experience. We see self-serve technology where you can go and scan something and then pick up the item that you've purchased ahead of time, perhaps curbside and things of that nature. And then also recognizing that anywhere that a customer might interact with an associate in the store is now an opportunity for service in some level. Again, that could be endless aisle technology, it could be checkout, it could be returning with a click, all of these different ways that now the store and the processes are made much more flexible and integrate into the way consumers want to shop. And then finally for us, that post-purchase stage, which is so kind of exciting. And once you start to look at a connected product and what that begins to sort of offer in terms of extending that relationship beyond that point of sale, where you can begin to open up the door to new business models, thinking about resale and re-commerce capabilities, layering in new services on top of that. There's a lot of exciting things that can happen here, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to explore.
Really interesting, really interesting. Let's turn to the expert panel, see what they have to say.
So Katie, I'd love to talk to you because I think that you are developing innovation that really connects to the theme that we're talking about right now. Could you talk us through the magic wand experience at Showfields?
When you think about Showfields, at our core, we're trying to make it as easy for a direct-to-consumer brand to open a physical location and to understand that physical location in the same way that they would open and understand a website. So we need to speak the language that the brands that we are working with speak on a day-to-day basis, which means one of the time-old things that we have to solve is attribution. Previously, when you open a physical location, you marked where you were in terms of your direct-to-consumer sales within that market. And then whatever lift you saw, even if that lift was organic or PR-based, you usually attributed that to opening a location. We've created something where you can literally walk around the store and it's almost like Instagram in real life. You have a wand in your hand, your phone is in your pocket, and as you go through the experience, you can tap on different items, learn about that brand, learn about that specific product, add that product to your wish list, and then eventually at the end of your experience, you get a list of everything you liked during your journey. You can add those items directly into your cart, check out, walk out with those items in a bag, or you'll have that list to reference later. On the brand side, we now know that that particular person, that email address, met your brand at Showfields. And if they go on to purchase that product on your website, you now know that it was your physical store where they met and decided to purchase that product.
That's amazing. Really like the way that you guys are kind of like thinking that through in almost like digitizing or adding that digital layer of intelligence to the physical store. So Jason, coming out of the pandemic or in the midst of the pandemic, obviously the whole idea of kind of click and collect and curbside exploded. And now it sort of, seems to be something that consumers have really kind of picked up on. Do you kind of see that being a function of the store moving forward? And then as a sort of follow up to that, how do you guys kind of think about that in a best in class kind of context?
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. So obviously we believe our curbside experience is really here to stay. So even as our stores reopen, people are continuing to use curbside. Originally it was for the safety aspects. And now it's really about convenience, ease of use. They get their time back during the day. We have 1 hour SLA for providing that product once you order a curbside order, which is spectacular. So we're constantly working to improve that experience. So an example of that would be our new proxy pickup experience, where I'm on my way, or you could have somebody else pick up the product instead of you. So it really we're just expanding that level of investment in that product because we do believe in it. However, we do see our in-store and online experiences being one, and we still believe that folks will want to walk into the store so you get the best of both worlds. The same set of services that are used for curbside are also used for our BOPUS, buy online, pick up in the store. So you physically walk in the store for it. But it's really leveraging the power of our stores. So having stores in proximity for our customer so they can get the product when they want it. We think, leveraging our stores as mini distribution centers, lack of a better term. We can fulfill those orders faster than we would by shipping that product direct to consumer. So it's been a game changer for us. We'll continue to make enhancements in that area. But it's something, that I believe it really ties in that full omnichannel experience.
Yeah, I love the way you talk about it in terms of that sort of time context as well.
Hi, Edith.
Hi.
Hey, so at Cleveron, you are currently deploying solutions with major retailers like Zara. Can you take us through how you're leveraging your tech to create better consumer experiences and what the impact might be?
Yeah, sure. We are creating automated pickup points or online order handover points. And the whole idea is to save time, money, and space, basically. So when it comes to retailers like Zara, we act as the in-store automated online order pickup point, which means that a client makes a purchase in the online store, and they pick the store as the pickup point. Usually there's a great benefit because it's free for a consumer, so that's kind of like a positive win. When the order arrives at the store associate inserts the parcel into the parcel robot, which takes only like 20 seconds. The customer receives an SMS or an email, whichever, with an order code. They arrive at the store, scan the code, or type in a PIN, and receive their item also in 20 seconds. So in terms of convenience, that's as convenient as you can get because it's fast, it's easy, it's simple, no waiting in lines, and no needing assistance, and that's it. These solutions are also as part of BOPUS journey as the endpoint where you collect your items. But one of the benefits of an in-store solution is that it also creates halo sales. The core idea, I think every retailer right now is looking for how to save time, space, and money, as I told you. Space, having thousands of parcels coming into the store. So you need somewhere to store them. Automated storage systems help to store them in a very space efficient way. So you don't have to have a huge amount of floor space and the storage, time, creating this delivery system that is time saving for both the staff and the customer. If you're handing out thousands of parcels a day, you need 5 store associates, compared to if you can automate it. So you have one person inserting all the orders into one machine within an hour, and that's it. And also for the customers, I mean, it's BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, not BOPIS, buy online, queue in store, and then get your parcel someday. So time is of the essence, as they say, and money, of course. If you have a store associate who is handing out parcels every day, all day long, instead of doing something that is more meaningful, and maybe customer service, extremely important for customer loyalty. Of course, upsell, there we go, revenue. And then everything that creates revenue. And then we go back to the customer convenience and customer experience. This also brings customer loyalty, and that creates revenue. So every solution has, what we create has the same core meaning, just the different models that we can deploy it there are different models, and we can deploy it in different ways, but the core idea is the same. But I think one of the coolest case studies we have is also part of BOPIS. It's a Danish retailer, Bilka, and they are taking their BOPIS to a next level. So when you think about the BOPIS is buy online, pick up in store, but they are already buy online, pick up out of store, and also buy online, pick up in a place where there is no store. So they are leveraging the technology to bring their stores closer to customers. So there are independent units. Also, there's the basics are the same. There's standard parcel robots. You buy online, you order, the goods you buy online, and the goods are brought to the parcel robot. You get your code and you take up your orders. But the solution can be placed anywhere. So basically, you have a store, a whole store with thousands of items because it's online. You can fit anything online, but your actual physical store takes up only like 3 or 4 parking spaces. And the beauty of it is that it can be placed anywhere. So that's one of the coolest places we have, I think, right now.
Are your solutions also being deployed in a kind of like reverse logistics manner as well? Are any of your store partners using it to accept online returns or just returns in general? And or are they also sort of like treating the store as a sort of fulfillment hub where they're loading it in from just like merchandise that's been pulled from the store inventory as well?
Actually, yes, we have. We have a client that uses the return function. They are also fascinating because they have, it's Asda in UK, and they have their own Asda2U logistics partner, and they have opened up the towers to other third-party providers. So they use up the whole space, and also take returns, which is, I think it's extremely clever, because when you think about the e-commerce is growing, the parcels are growing, but also that means that returns are growing. And then you also need to think about the very convenient way to process returns in a smart way. And we have that opportunity in our software. And another exciting case is with an Estonian telecommunications company, not even Estonian, it's in Scandinavia. We combined a smart touchscreen and a parcel robot. We just launched it yesterday. and it acts as a self-service mobile phone store, and not just for mobile phones, everything you need from a telco store, routers and such. And also it connects you to a client service that is somewhere else. And it's kind of like, independent store, self-service store, a little hub. And it's meant for areas where you don't have a representation. So it's kind of also like a step up, especially important in rural areas where often the service companies leave because it's just not financially reasonable to be there, but the people still need their services. So we have a pre-filled robot. They come in, they get in contact with the client service, they talk through the screen, and they pay for their phone or their, we have these routers and digital TV sets, and the robot is already pre-filled. So you also pay at the kiosk, and then you get your items read straight away from the robot.
Wow, that's incredible. We actually just did a report around self-serve and vending, and I love the idea of bringing in that sort of video interaction to have the one-on-one. So it's not just taking a best guess at what you might need, but having the ability to sort of connect with an expert. And like you said, again, these solutions can kind of be deployed anywhere and create these touch points for customers, which is really exciting. So as we transition to this stage of the shopper journey, we are excited to have Natasha Frank here from Eon to talk us through how their technology ultimately serves both the consumer experience as well as brands and retailers in creating deeper connection to both products as well as building relationships. So Natasha, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
As a sort of jumping off point here, I'm interested if you can kind of talk a little bit about how you see the mobile device kind of playing a role within the sort of broader retail experience and how that ultimately kind of connects to the solution that you're offering.
So today between brands and retailers, the relationship is broken at point of sale. And that means brands have a really high customer acquisition cost. It also means that brands generate a fraction of the possible revenue through each product that they produce. Brands basically today sell simple products, and they don't have the ability to monetize that product after initial sale. They don't have the ability to connect to their customer, even during initial sale and after initial sale, and they don't have the ability to monetize and scale new business models because of something very simple is missing, which is a product ID. So once brands digitize and connect their products, every single product becomes a channel for brands to connect to their customers. Every single product becomes a data generating asset where brands can start to understand how that product is used, how customers are engaging in that product and the life cycle of that product. And every single product can be stewarded and managed through brand owned, operated, or partner managed, essentially revenue generating re-commerce channels. So today brands produce products and they sell those products and they remove the RFID or the barcode or the NFC at point of sale. And that means that they no longer have that connection to that product. And they basically, without the ability to connect to that product after point of sale, they essentially generate a fraction of the future possible revenue through each product. And so by connecting that product can become a media channel for the customer to engage with the brand. That product becomes, that product can also be stewarded through the brand's re-commerce channels, such that brands can make 2-3 times the amount of revenue that they do today from each physical product.
When you talk about the when you talk about re-commerce, can you go a little bit deeper in terms of how that experience sort of works and what you mean by that? That might be a term that's a little bit unfamiliar to our audience.
So today, if a customer is ready for a change, right, if they're finished with their product, they will maybe look to take that product to The RealReal or ThreadUp or Poshmark or some third-party channel. Now, as soon as that customer goes to that third-party resale channel, they are also purchasing on that third-party resale channel. They're getting a credit. And that means that the initial brand that produced the product has lost the customer relationship. And they've also lost the ongoing value of that product. Now, with connected products, the customer can scan that product and instantly resell back through a revenue channel that is revenue generating for the initial brand. So when I scan that product, I will be able to instantly resell back through the original brand's preferred resale channel, get a credit back to the original brand. And now the brand has, one, they've kept my relationship with the brand, and they've also now received that product back, and they can resell that product and have that additional revenue from that second transaction and third transaction.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see that. Again, it's like the resale model has something that's obviously been around, but it seems to be gaining a lot of steam in the past 12 months or so. And we know younger consumers are shopping more from a resale point of view. And then again, when you think about that sort of ownership chain and the value chain associated with that from both a consumer and brand point of view, it's really exciting to see how your solution kind of like closes the gap there a bit.
So if I'm enjoying that product and it's, let's say it's a basic tee, I can instantly rescan and reorder that product. So that connected product, depending on the type of product it is, brands leverage different functionality for the product ID, right? You may not be reordering a very expensive coat, but you will be leveraging, you will be engaging the customer to resell that product as a brand and steward that product back through your brand's e-commerce channels. So it's not a one size fits all in terms of designing the connected product experience between the brand and the customer, but the concept of product ID as becoming a new normal for fashion will span every product type and category.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that you kind of talk about the various ways that can kind of play a role. Natasha, I wonder if you can expand a little bit on this idea of the two-way conversation. And I recognize that there's probably a lot of data that brands and retailers, whoever sort of selling that connected product, are able to kind of gather in relation to sort of use and things like that, and how that can then be utilized in different ways within a business capability as well.
So what is pretty exciting is to not only see the information that the brands are able to give to the customers, to your point, it's also to be able to see the information and content that consumers are able to share back with brands. So when a product comes in to a customer, if it didn't fit right and they're sending it back, they can scan that product and indicate that. They can also indicate, hey, I'm finished with this product. How can I, recycle it? Or I'm done with it. How can I resell it? Well, as soon as that customer is finished with that product, that is an invaluable bit of intel for a brand, right? They're selling that product from, winter, and now it's summer. Now maybe they want to change it for a summer product, right? So just this insight into the sort of ebb and flow of products within one consumer's life is incredibly valuable for a brand to be able to build more meaningful services and provide brands the products that they want at the right time.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I love the various, as you mentioned, this is the basis for all of these new kind of business models. And I can see there being things like subscription alongside of this as a sort of basic one. But then again, like, as you mentioned, like all of these various kind of services that can then layer in as a part of that, which is really exciting. So Lee, I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, and we've looked at clienteling in the context of sort of targeted selling, obviously. But what are some of the other ways you see either your clients or the potential for clienteling to sort of add value to the customer company relationship beyond just that sales piece?
I think that it really isn't about sales. Sales is a byproduct of building really good relationships. And I think that that can take a lot of different forms. So for example, really thinking more about the store as this community. I think that is maybe the most important piece of all of this is, if you are thinking about your store as a center for the neighborhood, it's all about creating opportunities and reasons for a customer to come in that isn't just a purchase. Because if the only reason a customer is ever going to come into your store is to spend money, that can become daunting. But as stores open back up, it is about having events. It's about creating affinity groups. It's about making sure customers know that you also really participate in the local area, whether that's through events, just acknowledging the weather. We always joke, like, it might be raining in New York, but it's not raining in Miami. So that's something that's unique to the New York store. And the more you can incorporate that into your outreach, the more you can make your customers aware that, hey, we are living in the same world, the more they're going to feel like there's a relationship, not just with the brand, but also with the store and with a specific person. And the more ties you can create, the longer that loyalty is going to extend and the deeper that loyalty is going to be within the customer.
Yeah, that's such a great insight. I mean, both the sort of community piece around the store, because at the end of the day, physical needs to sort of look beyond the transactional. And then also that sort of idea that whether you're a global or national brand, and then figuring out how you show up local just like makes that relationship so much stronger. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing those insights with us today.
Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Well, it looks like, Scott, we're coming to a close. I really want to thank all the speakers, and I want to thank the attendees as we kind of draw to the end of the show. Scott, how did you feel the event went?
Well, it was great. Very exciting cast of characters who shared lots of amazing insights today. Great conversation within the context of chat. Obviously, always excited to have our audience really participating and kind of leaning into things, and excited to have everybody read the report, react to everything that was shared today, and looking forward to the next one as well.
Yeah, do check out the reports. Do check out, if you haven't already received it, I'm sure in chat there's already folks explaining how to do that. Yeah, it was very engaging. We have 2 events that we are thinking about in the autumn. In the fall, we're thinking about doing a Future of Retail 2042 event, which could be very progressive, and it should be our first face-to-face event, maybe a hybrid event in San Francisco is the plan. And then we'll be mainly focused on our Retail Innovation Week in New York, which will happen at the same time as the NLF feature, where we bring to life innovation in the city and global innovation that's visiting the city. It should be a good time. So thank you, Scott. Thanks for your help today, and see you at our next event.
Cheers. Thanks, Piers. Thanks, everybody.
Nuance Retail Solutions provide a conversational omni-channel shopper experience across voice and digital through self-service or live agents. Powered by proven AI and biometric security, they offer consistent, seamless dialogues that leverage prediction and recommendation engines to better personalize the customer journey and meet the elevated expectations of today's consumers. NewStore is a turnkey omnichannel store solution for global DTC brands. The company delivers omnichannel as a service with the first cloud platform combining point of sale, order management, inventory, and clienteling. It's fast, flexible, easy to use, and all from an iPhone.